What do you do? Where do you go? You go to the draft.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Trozian, and this is RamView, the March 17th, 2025 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. Okay, it's St. Patrick's Day. I'm all down with St. Patrick. I'm down with any landmass that has no snakes. Any landmass that has no snakes, which means Ireland and I think New Zealand. So, but I'm not wearing green. Well, I do have a green wristband on. Yeah, green, that's Packer colors. This is blue and gold. This is RamView. So don't do the whole pinch stuff to me or anything like that. I got Willie Bowen saying happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you too, Willie. All right, let's just get to some stuff here. What we're going to do is we're going to break down recent signees, who's in the mix about possibly coming here, brief look at the Rams salary cap, putting out an APB on Akilla Witherspoon, and then looking at the Rams room in terms of each position room, who's still available in free agency, should the Rams spend a draft pick, and who are likely candidates for the Rams to draft, let alone looking at some stuff that's going on around the NFL, because the Bengals, the notoriously cheap Bengals, have decided to break the bank. And I'm anxious to see how they're going to look like. They're going to look like the late 80s version of LMU, Loyola Marymount. I think they're going to score a bunch of points, and it looks like they're going to give up a whole bunch too. But first, let's look at the Rams. They bring back Ronnie Rivers, which seemed like it was going to happen. They brought back Ronnie Rivers, which I'm good with. I still, we'll talk about the running back room in a minute here. Also, they re-signed Larrell Murchison. They lost Neville Gallimore. Murchison didn't play hardly at all this year. I think he was injured in the preseason, came back, played, 2 snaps and busted something, and they brought him back. So that's some nice depth the Rams have there in that room. So that part's looking good. Tyler Johnson, on the other hand, has signed to go play with the New York Jets. So they did lose Tyler Johnson, add him to the list of players that have left. Speaking of players, Jets linebacker, former Jets linebacker, soon to be former Jets linebacker, C.J. Mosley was a name. I don't know who said it here on the board, but I do know that that a lot of you guys championed it, and now I'm seeing a lot more. Maybe you guys started a grassroots fire. Would I be upset about the Rams signing C.J. Mosley? No, I wouldn't be upset about the Rams signing C.J. Mosley. I think that would be a good move, right? And then that would, again, kind of affect what you do in the draft. And we'll talk about the linebacker room here in a minute. Last time I checked, and I'll take correction on this because those numbers fluctuate. I couldn't get a clear number from Spot Track, but I looked at over the cap. Rams currently are listed with the release factored in of Cooper Kupp at 30.4 rocks that they have available. And so they would have the money to bring in a C.J. Mosley or maybe do something else as the offseason goes forward. It is March 17th. League meeting starts March 30th. That's when they'll tell us punt returns are too violent and everything's going to be decided by the flip of a coin, We'll let Talking Football deal with it because that's how they always come out with some new rule or something crazy at league meetings. And then, of course, the draft in late April. As of right now, Rams that are still available and out there on the market, John Johnson, Connor McDermott, who was AWOL last year because he was on the injured list, Troy Reeder, who went down midseason and we didn't see again, the infamous Joe Noteboom, and Akilla Witherspoon. And again, very little conversation. I think I saw one blurb that said Robert Saleh would love to have Akilla Witherspoon with Frisco. And other than that, no buzz. And I'm kind of curious what the Rams are thinking. Are they thinking they can move off Witherspoon and bring in one of those free agent guys that are out there and maybe improve the position? Of course, we also talked about, draft. I'm always throwing out the name Emmanuel Forbes as well, who's already in-house. So Akilla Witherspoon, it's like, can I have a conversation about Akilla Witherspoon? Because I'm not even see other teams outside of that little Robert Saleh quote with Frisco. I'm not seeing anything on him. And so I am curious if you guys have come across anything as well. I promise, guys, we'll get to the questions here. Looking at the offensive line, something you always do. Alaric Jackson, right now his backup would be A.J. Curry. Steve Avalot, left guard. Right now his backup will be Justin Diedick. Bo Limmer at center with Coleman Shelton and Dylan McMahon as his backups. Shelton, of course, could swing to a guard spot as a backup. So that's his benefit. We don't want him to be the starting center. We want to see a better version of Bo Limmer that in 2025 than he was in 2024. We want to see a better version of that. We've seen the best of Coleman Shelton, and it's okay. But we want something better than okay. Kevin Dotson at right guard. Right now, KT Leviston, who played tackle in college, looks like he would be the guy at guard as a backup. Rob Havenstein at right tackle, and, of course, Warren McClendon. We've talked a lot about Warren McClendon here. So, all right, a few questions have come in. Some listeners have popped in. Guys, thank you. Steve Ramirez, Willie Bowen, Tim Burns, Manny Vasquez, Ron Reese, thank you so much for coming in. Yes, happy St. Patrick's Day. One of the things I liked about when I was a kid in grade school was, first, it's St. Patrick's Day. We celebrated St. Patrick's Day in public school. Go figure, right? And then there was that whole business of people pinching you, but we always had a party. And some of the best homemade cookies were that day. It was one of my favorite days. Willie Bowen, another reason why I'm a Rams fan, Rams colors, royal blue, mustard yellow uniforms are my favorites. Willie, I'm your guy, Willie. Love you, Willie. Don't want to drive you away. But mustard yellow, man, I just can't dance. Can't dance. All right. Steve Ramirez, will Aaron Rodgers go to the Vikings? I heard a report today somewhere. I heard a report today that the Vikings were out of the Aaron Rodgers business. They weren't going to do it. That's what I heard. That's from Steve Ramirez. Tim Burns, we spent the most per player so far in free agency, $56 million total. I'm going to say this. There was a blurb on Twitter today that said that someone in the NFL Network thought the Rams overpaid 2 years, 46 or 2 years, 44 for Davante Adams. You're getting Davante Adams. Only 23 of that's guaranteed. Davante Adams is essentially on a one-year contract. If he whiffs, he's gone, right? I mean, how can you say that's a bad deal? That guy's hungry for a ring. Rams are hungry for production. And we've seen the best of what Cooper Kupp can give. I thought that was a ridiculous take. Tim Burns, thoughts on Elijah Moore as wide receiver fit from Cleveland? I've seen a few stories. I saw his name. I'm not up on Elijah Moore. Maybe if we didn't keep Tutu Atwell, but we kept Atwell. And so what does Moore do if he comes in? Who does he take snaps from? And he wasn't working with the Jets, and he wasn't working with Cleveland. And you could say dysfunction at quarterback with both those franchises. But you know what? I like what I got. Now, we're going to give McSneed the benefit of the doubt. But if McSneed was to call me, like Stan does all the time, if they were to call me, I'd say, no, I'm going to pass on Elijah Moore, right? And if Elijah Moore catches the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl this year, then of course I'm going to come back and say, oh, I've always been an Elijah Moore fan. Willie Bowen, Tim, the Rams are set at wide receiver position. Okay, Willie, setting it straight there. Manuel Vasquez, hopefully the Rams do bring back Witherspoon. Even if he does get beat out as a starter, he's a nice backup. And that's what he is. I think that's great, Manny. You said that. That's what Witherspoon is. Witherspoon is not an 18-week, 17-game corner. I've harped on that for 23. In 2023, he faded down the stretch. I harped on it last year. He wasn't signed until the season began. And then the back half of the season, because he didn't play the first half, he was excellent for us. And I think we're remembering that nice run, the excellent interception against the Cardinals. I like him, but he's not a guy that you pin your hat to, right? He's not a guy that you're going to say, oh, he's my guy for 2 years and everything. But He's great in sips, and let's keep him in those at half season mode. And maybe that's the case of Rams are saying, hey, Akilo, we'll pay you this, and Akilo's wanting to hold it out for a little more of this. That's all I can think of. Let's see here. Willie Bowen, hola Manny. Ron Reese, hi Joe. Thank you, Ron, for clicking on. Do you think the Seahawks paid too much for Kupp? Yes, I do, and I love it. Yes, I do. I honestly, okay, if it was 15 rocks to keep Cooper Kupp and the Rams thought he could play, would they have been so adamant about moving off of him? No, they wouldn't have been. But he wasn't playing, right? We saw the last month of the season. We saw the playoff games. You know, I like Cooper Kupp again, but Seattle overpaid. They overpaid, and I think it's marvelous. I think it's marvelous. I want Kupp to catch 90 passes, have a great year, and I want the Seahawks to go 0-2 against the Rams and make sure they go, 8-9, 9-8, and miss the playoffs. I'm all good with that. But they overpaid. Totally overpaid. Absolutely, Ron. Tim Burns, I haven't scanned DBs yet, but mocks have Jahade Barron from Texas, and it is said he's the best DB in the draft. Thoughts? I've seen him all over the yard. I've seen him in mocks inside the 10. I've seen him in mocks as far back as 26. And I'm going to talk about this maybe I'll talk about it right now. And let me finish your guys' questions. Let me catch up and I'll get into that. But I had some thoughts about the draft I wanted to share. Let's see here. Steve Ramirez. I heard they might extend challenges to penalty calls if it won't include penalties not called. Thoughts? I'm reading that wrong there, Steve. Let me see. I heard they might extend challenge. I think they've got to challenge some of these quarterback hits. They have to. It's ridiculous. And honestly, if you want to make the game fair, right, employ the college football pass interference rule. Let's stop having games won on a long bomb that was incomplete, and then we're dealing with, was it catchable? Did he push off? And the ball is a spot foul. I think we should have 15 yards for pass interference, and then there should be an egregious version where, they yank the receiver down and all that kind of stuff. They can make those kind of decisions on the field, but you got to, at least with the quarterback and the shots to the head, you got to have review of the flags that are called. If this is what you're saying, Steve, I don't necessarily want them buzzing down. I don't want them buzzing down and say, oh, New York saw it, because it's got to happen there in the stadium, right? It's got to happen there. I'm sure New Orleans is complaining about that because they're still living, Nicole Roby Coleman is still living rent-free in their head, right? Anyway, let's see. Tim Burns, I think we are good at wide receiver as well, Willie, but everyone is short-term, so I prefer we grab Golden in the draft for long-term speed. Manny says hi to Willie. Tim Burns, Vikings are going to regret being dismissive of Darnold, win 15 games and get the door. Well, how much do they believe in J.J. McCarthy, right? That's the whole story, right? How much do they believe in J.J. McCarthy? I heard Diana Rossini's podcast, Scoop City, and she said she spoke to Kevin O'Connell in December, and they were very optimistic about J.J. McCarthy. And then she said she spoke to him Super Bowl week, and she said O'Connell didn't sound as jazzed about him. So unbelievable. Stan Kroenke's calling me. There we go. Sorry, Stan, I'm doing the show. And so I'm curious about O'Connell. I don't know. What are they going to do for a backup, right? I think Nick Mullen's gone. Daniel Jones took 14 or 15 rocks to go to the Colts. And of course, Darnold's gone. So they want to have a veteran in there. Do they bring Kirk Cousins back if Atlanta puts him in the street, which Atlanta says they're not going to do? Who do they go after? I'm telling you, I think a guy that's out there that, if a team just wanted to be aggressive, note to Steeler fan Rob, go get Jameis Winston. He'll throw the ball downfield. You got receivers. He's not risk averse. I'll tell you that much. He's gutsy. He'll make the throw. And he'll make a big mistake, but you know what? I don't think you're going anywhere really this year. So that's a guy that's out there that no one's thinking about. Let's see. USA expat, love our potential office, but I still feel Kyron is overrated. I love Kyron. I really do, but he needs a partner. And hopefully Blake Corum gets expanded touches. And we've seen it now for 2 full years. He's been great, but Kyron can't hit the home run. He's got warning track power, right? He's got warning track power. You know, that initial burst through the gap, making quick decisions, boom, hitting the hole. He's great. And unfortunately, though, he gets in the open field. We know he's going to get caught. You know, he's got a little of the McCutcheon in him. And I love Lawrence McCutcheon, but you want the home run guy. And that's what I think they should look for in the draft a little bit as well. They need that other guy. And Ronnie Reese isn't that guy. You know, Ronnie Rivers isn't that guy. Ron Reese is on here. Ron Rivers isn't that guy. And of course, Blake Corum's not necessarily that guy. And so they need that. If the offense is going to be more dynamic, they need something a little bit more. Ron Reese, I was watching Locked On Rams last week. Travis Rogers was not happy about the 2-2 signing. Yeah, Travis is not Mr. Rogers is not a 2-2 guy at all. But I will argue this is on, again, McVay. McVay's got to prove it, that the reason you gave him 10 rocks to stay. Let's see, USA X-Hat. Package those 4 6th-round picks and move up for a better quality players. I've heard that. You know what I also heard? That, you know, it's kind of disappointing and deflating is that I've also heard that so many teams are viewing that this year's draft just isn't stacked enough with enough players, even in the later rounds, that teams, including the Rams, might be looking to stockpile picks in next year's draft. And means moving back and, you know, taking some extra picks in the 2026 draft. So, yeah, to be curious to see how it plays out. Tim Burns, we just can't do away with the sticks on the field. Lots of dramatic moments as the chains are pulled tight. I fully agree. That's part of the theater, right? It's part of the theater, and you see the chains pulled out. I fully agree with you there, Tim. I fully agree. Let's see. Kyron Williams should hold on to the ball on vital yardage and red zone opportunities. I think he's going to be better this year. I think he knows what he needs to do. I think he's close to second contract country, and that's probably one of the things that's holding him back. And to be better, I think he's going to be better this year. I really do. Tim Burns, how did the Vikings win 15 and dump the quarterback and not have a plan? That is very Steelers of them. Ooh, I do think it's because they had confidence in JJ. That's what I think. They're banking on JJ. And again, I'm not all Sam Darnold either. I'm not all in on Sam Darnold. That's why I'm thrilled that he's with Seattle. Manny Vasquez, Rams fans should look at the stat I found that says from 2021, Adams went from 6th out of 160 to 15th in 2024 for the ability to get open. Cooper Kupp went 15th to 141 out of 160. They made the right choice. I fully agree with that. The only thing I disagree with there is I saw that number that in 2021 that Cooper Kupp was the 15th best player in the NFL at getting open. Oh my gosh. Cooper Kupp was open the entire 2021 season. And I that's the PFF metrics that I really struggle with. But I know what you mean because we saw it last year. Kupp can't get open. That's why he's not getting the ball. And Devontae Adams can still play. All right, Tim Burns, Steven Jackson at 18th in rushing, a Hall of Famer. Steven Jackson's a Hall of Famer. Will he get there anytime in the next 10 years? Probably not. If Steven Jackson was a Cowboy, he'd be a Hall of Famer. If Steven Jackson was a Steeler, he'd be a Hall of Famer. If Steven Jackson was a Packer, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Steven Jackson was a Ram, and unfortunately, he was a St. Louis Ram during the darkest 10 years of the franchise. And he's going to have to wait, and that's just tragic. Steven Jackson was amazing. Steven Jackson was great. I'm very pro Steven Jackson. Bill, it's awful quiet. Any rumors about the Rams bringing anybody in? Only one I heard was the C.J. Mosley one, and because I heard it here first, and then it seems like you guys were other people were talking about it too. Willie Bowen, LA Rams need to have 2 running backs in the backfield, Corum and Williams. Maybe a split back in the backfield. Go back to those days, right? Go back to the days before there was one feature back. I get it. I love it. I wish we could. All right. Around the NFL and other places, I'll get back to other questions here in a second. We know most of the signings. I've gone through them. Let's look at some late stuff here. Former Ram cornerback, 3rd round, 79th overall in 2019, David Long out of Michigan. He played 4 years for the Rams. Couldn't get on the field. It was a 3rd round pick. That was a whiff. And that's why you're always leery about drafting a cornerback. He signed with the Colts. The Colts are bringing him back. I think he was a special teamer last year. Jets signed former Ram wide receiver Tyler Johnson. Speaking of cornerbacks, the Texans extended Derek Stingley Jr., the LSU guy, 3 more years at 90 rocks. And that means he's going to get 30 rocks a year as a corner, meaning he's under contract because he's still got a contract now. He's under contract with the Houston Texans through 2029. Cowboys can't win for losing. You had the little squabble there between D. Law and Micah Parsons. They got Dak Prescott coming back. They brought in Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. Woo, right? They lost Zach Martin. They're going to overpay Micah Parsons. They're paying too much for CeeDee Lamb. And now the Cowboys have lost Cooper Rush, who was a pretty competent backup for them. I didn't realize Cooper Rush is 31. Did not realize that. And he signed a 2-year deal with the Ravens, which is an interesting thing considering, the style of football they play there in Baltimore, that they brought in Cooper Rush. He's definitely not somebody that's going to emulate Lamar Jackson, but good for Cooper Rush, got another contract, and good for him. He got out of Dallas. KC brings back Juju Smith-Schuster, and the Taxkins are bringing back former Raider bust Clelin Ferrell. Now, Ferrell, we know, played out his, 5 years, 4 years. I think it was 4 years with the Raiders. And then he played 1 year in Frisco. I think that was the Super Bowl year. They lost. And then last year he was with the Taxkins, had 3.5 sacks. They're bringing him back. But I have to admit, I knew he was a first-round pick of the Raiders, and this was in the Mayock Gruden years. Did you guys know, or do you remember that Clelin Ferrell was 4th overall? He was taken 4th overall. I mean, man, how do you feel? Imagine if Clelin Ferrell in 2019, taken 4th overall, had developed into what you expect the 4th overall pick to be. Imagine having Clelin Ferrell and Max Crosby, right? Only the Raiders, right? Only the Raiders. And the Bengals have done it, right? They gave T. Higgins, who they initially franchised and now have negotiated an extended contract. They've given him 4 years, 115 rocks. Jamar Chase, they gave him 4 years, 161 rocks. They're paying the moon to Joe Burrow, and I heard they're actually in conversation for Trey Hendrickson to bring him back. And everyone else is unemployed, though. Everyone else has lost a job, and it's going to be interesting. Like I said, they're going to be the Loyola Marymount of the NFL. They're going to score 160 points, but they're going to give up 159. Right? It's going to be really interesting. And if anything happens to Joe Burrow, is it Jake Browning? I know you guys, I think it was it Willie or somebody here honking for Jake Browning? Is Jake Browning going to be able to get the ball to Higgins and Chase? Yeah, it's interesting, though. The Bengals actually spent money. They just paid them early. They wouldn't have been in this spot. All right, guys. I'm Joe Tarosian. I was a sports writer, still am, I guess, for about 20 years. And now I do RamView, thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law. And I write books. My books are on Amazon. I appreciate your guys' support. Just type in my name, Joe Tarosian, Torosian. Tribe, I see you there. I'll get to you guys in a second. And my books, I got three football novels. 2 of them are on high school football. My latest book, Game Day in the RamCave, came out last September, and it's about a fictional football game playoff game between the Rams and the Packers in the NFC Championship game, and what it's like to watch a game with riffraff and somebody who's not into it. You ever watch a game with riffraff and somebody who just says, "Oh, same old typical Rams"? Well, that's the experience you get in the book. It's very frustrating, but enjoyable. It's done well. Thank you for your support. And all these things help me stay employed in my day job. I pastor a small church in Burbank, Burbank Faith Nazarene, and we're right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, and Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media. We don't have a paywall, and we don't have a Patreon account. So thank you for your support, and do not hesitate to give Kistler Law a call if you're having any sort of auto accident issues. I know this one firsthand. They are the best in the biz. All right. A few more questions have come in here. Let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. Manny Vasquez. I've been a loyal Rams fan for 50 years, and I remember those brutal St. Louis days. Yeah, Manny, that's so funny. So you guys know my day job. I'm in the pulpit on Sunday mornings. And so when the Rams were in St. Louis, most of those games, they're going on when I'm in the pulpit. And but man, we got DirecTV in the early 2000s, and then it had its version of TiVo, or able to record. And then I don't know what I did. I did something really nice for my wife, and I got the Sunday ticket. And I had the Sunday ticket for probably about 12 years. So I saw every single one of those games. The amazing thing is that I got the Sunday ticket just at the end of the Greatest Show on Turf era. I think I got the Sunday ticket the last year the Rams made the playoffs. I think that was the year they won in Seattle and then lost in Atlanta, and they didn't make it back to the playoffs again. I saw all those games, and I had the Sunday ticket through 2016, and yeah, it was brutal, but I saw them all. That's why I am a Steven Jackson fan. I'm a Mark Barron fan. There's some guys out there that you just really, really liked, right? I'm a Ronald Bartel fan and stuff, and that was tragic. That was tragic those years. Let's see. Tim Burns, let's face it, Rams have had a few dry spells, Manny. Tribe, hi, Joe. Cool. Thank you, Tribe, for clicking on. Steve Ramirez, Bengals are committing $130 million. There's the number, Steve. Thank you for that number there. $130 million to 3 guys. Not sure how that works, right? And, here's the funny thing, Steve, is they had those guys last year. Joe Burrow stayed healthy. Higgins had a couple of hamstring issues, dodged in and out of games a couple times. Jamar Chase was healthy. Trey Hendrickson was healthy, and they didn't make the playoffs. Now, they've got an advantage. It looks like Pittsburgh's taking a fall, right? I think we're all pretty much agree on that. Cleveland's not going anywhere. So they've got Baltimore to contend with. And so within the division, they've got a shot if they stay healthy. But this was Joe Burrow's, I think, first full healthy season since 2021. Yeah, I don't know how it works either, Steve. Tim Burns, I was profiling college quarterbacks and saw Alan Bowman from Oklahoma State. He's been playing since 2018, 7 seasons. How do they do career records with all these 6 and 7 year college careers? It's crazy, right? Yeah, I know Cam Rising at Utah started collecting Social Security before. I think he's not coming back anymore. I think he's officially retired, right? But I'll say this, in the era of NIL, I can keep in school, get a little bit better in my craft, and make a couple mil every year doing NIL, right? You're talking some of these kids at small schools, at least in basketball, they're making 2 million, 3 million rocks. And it's like, man, I think I'm going to stay here, finish my education, work on my master's. And then, after I get better at my sport, get better at my craft, I'll go to the NFL. And I think that boat has been, that boat's come to harbor, where we know the one thing that does work is the more starts you have in college, the better prepared you are for the NFL. See Bo Nix, see Anthony Richardson, right? And that really does work out. Let's see, USA Expat. No riffraff in my RamCave, but I have Ram buddies who want to change the channel every commercial to check out their fantasy players. Get out. Oh, yeah, that's bad mojo, man. USA Expat. That is bad mojo. That is terrible. Yeah, I've had to watch Super Bowls with people that it's a big Super Bowl party because of my job. And I'm there to watch the game. And yet there's people who are not in there to watch the game and then just come in to see the Super Bowl commercials, right? And then there's always that jerk Ram fan in there who's not really a Ram fan, but they always come out and they'll just say, oh, typical Rams. That's what the Rams always do. And it's like, you don't even know the Rams, right? It's like, right? I can tell you, in my youth, my friends and I, we lied. There we go. I can't beat around the bush. We lied, and we told a group of people at church, oh yeah, we're going to so and so's house to watch the game, and then we went someplace else to watch it just because we didn't want the riffraff in there jacking with the Rams. Do I need forgiveness on that one, guys? Tell me about that one. Michael Negretti. Hola, Pastor Joe. What do you think of C.J. Mosley or Isaiah Simmons as a pickup for the Rams? You know, funny, I didn't see any buzz on Isaiah Simmons, but there's a lot of buzz on C.J. Mosley. And as I said at the top of the show, I'm all down with it. I'm down with it. Rams got a little bit of money to spend. They got a veteran, the guy that can still run, offer some leadership, and he's Ram character, right? Rams are pretty specific about the kind of people they bring into the locker room. He's not going to upset the vibe. And I also think the culture of the Rams, it's all about Super Bowls. They're not going to jack around with a dude. You know, see Ernest Jones, right? If someone's messing with the vibe, you're gone. Yeah. Tim Burns. Let's see here. On my grandmother's deathbed, she said, I am giving you a lot of money, but one stupid gift. I brought a 3,000 widescreen Sunday ticket. Saw lots. You bought a what is that? A 3,000? What is it? How big is that widescreen? A 30-inch widescreen? I don't know. Tell me what that is. A 300-inch widescreen and the Sunday ticket. Saw a lot of bad St. Louis seasons. Okay, so you know what it's like. I did too. That's why the RamCave got built, because my family got sick of me after church coming home and then throwing things and getting mad. It's like, honey, yeah, build the RamCave and you can leave us alone. Let's see. Daryl Shepard. Daryl, thank you. Thank you for joining us, Daryl. I don't think I've had you before. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate your presence. CBS Today says Dart at 26. Yeah, I've seen a number of those things. Dart, has darted up the board. And we were talking about that, even some other mock drafts had him going as high as 3rd overall. I think teams desperate for a young quarterback will look at Jackson Dart. I like Jackson Dart. I really do. And I would take a swing at him. I absolutely would. Tim Burns, Daryl, we take Dart at 26. Yeah, we would. Steve Ramirez, it's lying season. But read that the Rams don't like this year's draft class for quarterbacks. Yeah, I think I've heard that too, Steve. Manuel Vasquez, I got DirecTV when it started in the mid-90s. After 15 years, they gave me the Sunday ticket for free. For 10 years, I can count on one hand how many Ram games I've missed over the last 30 years. Wow. Okay, so you have slammed me on that one. Yeah. I feel like, though, if you saw all the bad football, you got status as a Ram fan, right? We're not like these fair weather Ram fans. We're not like those that, the Hollywood crowd, the elites that show up, that unfortunately old Stan caters to, him and Demoff. It's like, throw those bums out, get some blue collar guys in there. I don't want to see The Rock at a Ram football game. I don't want him doing a rah-rah on the field before a game. I just want to see football, man, and get some grass in there too. All right, there we go. I ranted. Michael Negretti. Repent, Pastor Joe, but the Lord knows the intention of your heart. Yeah, because God's a football fan, right? He's a Ram fan too, right? Tim Burns. $3,000 for that widescreen with a huge back on it. Okay, wow. Yeah, those widescreens now are as thin as the phones, right? But back then, yeah, those were pretty big. Bill, last time I checked over the cap, the Rams had 30 million plus. The 15 million after June 1st, 45 million. Is that right? So I saw the 30 million, Bill. I didn't see the post June 1st designation. So thank you. You kind of confirmed to me there what the Rams are doing. All right, guys, thanks for sticking with me. One of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to go through the rooms, but let me first look at mock drafts real quick. I've been bouncing around to different mock drafts. I did a Fox Sports mock draft on Friday, and they actually incorporated a trade back, which was pretty interesting. It was the first one I saw do that. But today I saw one on Rams Wire, Cam DeSilva. I saw he had done a 7-round mock draft, and it was just interesting to see what he came up with. And he had the Rams at 26, taking Nick Emanwari, the South Carolina heavy safety guy, the utility piece there. I know Manny Correa has been pushing him hard, and I don't know if I'd take him at 26, but that's where De Silva had him. He had the Rams. He made no trades in this. He just went straight with the Rams have none. Now, tight end Elijah Arroyo, Miami, at number 90. Number 101, Savion Williams, TCU. That's a playmaker guy. 127, fourth round, Logan Brown, tackle, Kansas. 190, I like this one, running back Jaden Blue from Texas. Cornerback at 195, Zach Frazier, University of Texas at San Antonio. Defensive tackle, Cam Jackson, Florida. Offensive linebacker, outside linebacker, Baron Sorrell, Texas. I saw everything there except a cornerback, and maybe Sorrell's the edge guy. But I thought that was a pretty interesting draft by De Silva. I do kind of growing on Elijah Arroyo. I am. So my thoughts on Elijah Arroyo are growing. As always, I'm going to put this in the box there. My email. If you want to send me your mock draft, I will go from there, and you guys can send it, and I'll be happy to talk about it this mock draft season. Steve Ramirez says no on a safety at number 26, and Steve posted a pretty good mock draft today where he made a couple of deals. The Rams ended up with 35th overall. Now, this one, if it works, it's fantastic. If it doesn't work, well, I don't know if it's going to work, but in the mock draft Steve had, he had Josh Simmons, the Ohio State guy, falling in this mock draft all the way to 35. And if Josh Simmons is at 35, that's who I want the Rams to take. That would be a great pickup. And that leads me to my next point here is I think the Rams, and I had this brief conversation with Rams Brothers on Twitter as I was prepping, they were kind of pointing out that there's some deficiencies in maybe Byron Young's game. And we had a minor disagreement. It wasn't even a contentious thing. It was just conversation back and forth that the Rams should look at edge. And I think one of my responses was that the Rams are in a position right now, almost, right? There's a couple of loose ends there, maybe at linebacker, a little question mark at CB, cornerback, that Rams are in a place right now where they can take the best athlete available, right? They could take the best football player available and not have to stress that says, oh, we've got this position covered, we need something else. But like, oh, we like this guy, we can draft him, trade back, draft who you want. And that's pretty unique. I remember that was the case a lot in the 70s with Klosterman. Now, I didn't understand it when I was 10, 12, 13 years old. I came to understand it much later, is that draft the best player available. You used to hear that a lot, draft the best player available. And you hear the Rams are drafting Capoletti after McCutcheon and Bertelsen both went to the Pro Bowl, but yet it paid off. Bertelsen broke down. Capoletti kind of carried us through the majority of the 70s after that. But so draft the best player available. So I wanted to look at some of the positions. Manuel Vasquez, I think the Rams should trade back and get as many top 100 picks as they can. Or if someone wants to give them a second and a first next year, that's good ammo to move up for a future quarterback. Yeah, I that was one of the things. I agree with you, Manny, on that. The one of the things that I'm starting to get my mind around because of just the things I'm seeing buzzing is that the view of the draft this year is that teams might want to bail on 2025, load up for 2026. And I think I inadvertently stuck my foot in that when Monday last week when we started talking free agency and how active it was, and that teams were making all these moves because they didn't necessarily believe what they needed was in the draft, but on the free agent market. So there we go. Let's see. Tim Burns. In my opinion, the only positions we use at 26 are wide receiver and quarterback. Okay. That quarterback, would that be Jackson Dart? What if it's Jalen Milroe? Curious what you think about that. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, the Rams should trade down with the Browns. The Rams trade their 26th pick to the Browns second. Hey, I'm good with all that. Browns need players. They need players that are cheap. You know who should be a good trade partner? The Bengals. Bengals need they need quality players and they need them cheap, right? The Bengals should be good trade partners as well. Manuel Vasquez, it's not a very cheap, deep draft at all. And after the third round, it really drops off. Tim Burns, if Golden, Igabuka, or Dart are available at 26, boom, or you trade back. Okay, yeah. Igabuka's always gone just before the Rams draft. So, okay, let's look at the Rams quarterback room real quick here. We got Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Stetson Bennett. I believe that if Stetson Bennett was anywhere along the way that they envisioned him being, I think Stetson Bennett would be the backup quarterback. Rams are more confident about Jimmy G, which means Stetson Bennett, who's now you guys correct. Could someone look this up for me? Bennett might be pushing 28 years old now because I think the Rams got him when he was 25 or 26, and I think he's pushing 28. If it was going to happen, it would have happened, right? At least he would be the Rams' backup, and he's not. He's third string. To me, he really should say, man, assign me to the UFL, get me some playing time, because this guy's going on 3 years now since he's played any significant games. So could the Rams, I don't think they're not going to look for a quarterback in free agency, but could the Rams draft a quarterback? I think if you're thinking best player available, they could. We've talked about Jackson Dart, maybe third day, Will Howard. Dylan Gabriel is popping up a lot, usually second day. It's funny, I haven't heard no buzz on Quinn Ewers. Tyler Shough, the Louisville quarterback, and Kyle McCord. I've heard him. I did mention Riley Leonard. So yeah, could the Rams draft a quarterback? Yeah, I think they could. I think I'm curious though what some of your thoughts are on Jalen Milroe talking about quarterbacks. But yeah, I think if Jackson Dart's there at 26, I would hope they'd take a swing. If not, again, this organization's earned some trust. Running back room, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, Cody Schrader, and they just re-signed Ronnie Rivers, and I believe Royce Freeman was also brought back. A lot of running backs to take. You know, I was talking a lot about Omarion Hampton early, but I'm seeing Omarion Hampton move up in the draft, and so I don't know if he's going to be there. You know, he's a playmaker. Would you consider Omarion Hampton at 26? I know Mr. Burns loves Cam Scatabo. Scatabo's not a number 26 guy. Cam Scatabo, Devin Neal, Jaden Blue. These are some of the guys that would be interesting for the Rams to look at. And then at wide receiver, Rams got Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell. Coming off the practice squad, you've got Drake Stoops, Quintus Cephas, and Xavier Smith, although Xavier Smith was on the regular roster returning kicks. The free agents that are still out there at wide receiver, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen. I don't see the Rams bringing in any of those guys. In the draft, just like you guys just mentioned, Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden at 26. There'd have to be a huge temptation there. The reason is also essentially Devontae Adams is on a one-year contract. If he's a whiff, you got to go back in the market. Nacua is going to be injury guy just because of his style of play. Jordan Whittington had a bunch of injuries in college, and Atwell's on a one-year contract. So even though the wide receiver room is set, you know, you're going to need some depth. You're going to be adding guys there. Then, of course, later in the draft, you got Jack Besh from TCU, Jalen Royals from Utah State, and Savion Williams. I've seen him on a lot of mock drafts going to the Rams at about 100, 101 there from TCU. He's a total playmaker. And then the other one is here in the tight end room. Tyler Higbee, Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen. Now, if we knew all those guys were healthy, I wouldn't have an issue here. We know Tyler Higbee can't be. And as the days pass, do you get the feeling the Rams are going to cut loose Colby Parkinson? I don't get the feeling they're going to cut loose Colby Parkinson. But because of Higbee's health, and I do believe this is the last rodeo for him, yeah, tight end Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, Oregon, Harold Fannin, Bowling Green, and Gunnar Helm, Texas. They're all probabilities. I can see the Rams drafting tight end. Same thing with the offensive line. Gray Zabel, although he's going high, he's going late first round, the North Dakota State guy. Arrington Irsay, he's a tackle at Minnesota, and Anthony Belton, North Carolina State. Could I see the Rams drafting a tackle? Absolutely, I could see the Rams drafting a tackle. Let me see who you guys have here real quick coming in. Let's see. Samuel Ainsley. Howdy, Joe. Howdy, Sam. Thank you for coming in. Manuel Vasquez. Stetson Bennett is 27. Does he turn 28 this year? Does he turn 28 during the football season? Yeah, 27, and he hasn't gotten a whiff of playing time in the regular season. Willie Bowen, LA Rams defense should be able to stop the opposing team's runs and sacking the quarterback this season. Horns up. Absolutely, they should be. And I like what they've done along the defensive front. Samuel Ainsley, time to move on from Bennett. Yeah, I'm not slamming the kid for anything. It's just, if it was going to happen, it would have happened. I don't know if it would have been a priority to bring Jimmy G back, right? We're just not seeing enough from him. Let's see. Tim Burns, I think Sean McVay is being kind to Bennett and helping a fragile mind from losing to his demons. I think it's more than football in my heart. Yeah, but what did Dennis Leary, when he was playing the coach in draft day? Do you remember when they talk about Vontae Mack's sister dying, right? And what does Dennis Leary do? He goes, boo freaking who? We're running a football team here, right? And I hope the Rams wouldn't pass on some potential guy that they could develop. Could you imagine drafting a quarterback and having him develop into a starter? And I hope they're not passing on anybody because, they want to help Stetson Bennett. And I know it's terribly callous of me to say that, but yeah. We didn't show much heart to Cooper Kupp, but of course there were more dollars involved then. Steve Ramirez, Bennett will be 28 in October. Wow. Yeah, that's old. Willie Bowen, then who should be the third string quarterback? Samuel. They need to draft one. I think they need to draft a quarterback. I'm not saying they have to force the issue, but just like you did with Bennett, you drafted him in the 4th round. If you've got a Riley Leonard sitting there, if you've got a Dylan Gabriel, who I think is going to be a backup guy, if you've got a Quinn Ewers sitting there, a Tyler Shaw sitting there, I think you got to take a swing. And who knows, maybe you develop something down the road. Who have we had the opportunity to see Sean McVay draft and develop? He developed Jared Goff, but he didn't draft Jared Goff. And so it would be fun to see him draft somebody and then keep him around for 2 or 3 years, play out the string with Stafford. And then we know that Jimmy G's not a long-term, but maybe in 2 years or in the 3rd year, by 2027, this kid that you draft, maybe one of those guys is ready to go. I'm not saying it could happen or should happen, but, just keep our eyes open to it. Let's see here. Michael Negretti, yes to Hampton. Yeah, I'm yes to Hampton too. Tim Burns, I agree about Scadaboo. At the numbers we are drafting at, he won't be there, and I wouldn't use a 26 on him. As much as I like him, he went to Sac State and everything. So Tim Burns, when you see Bronny drafted, anything is possible. There you go. Manny Vasquez, I believe in second chances, but Bennett is past that, so he needs to go. Even as an emergency quarterback, that's valuable spot that can go to someone who actually is going to help the team. And and again, if I'm Stetson Bennett with the clock ticking, right? He's Marissa Tomei. My biological clock is ticking. His clock is ticking. He should be begging. Let me go to the UFL. Let me go get some snaps in, right? I need those snaps. And I saw him. I was there his rookie year at RamCamp. I got to see him throw. He made really nice throws. It was really, really good throws he made. And of course, then he went, off whatever that issue was that cost him that rookie season. But at 28, that means, let's just say, if they thought he's the guy, you're going to keep him for another year or two, and at the age of 30, think he's going to be the guy replacing Matthew Stafford. It's time to reset that clock. Tim Burns, Marissa Tomei. There we go. Mike Negretti, Ola Willie. Okay, guys, let me look at the defensive players here in that defensive room. Defensive interior, all right? I think the Rams, I'm looking at my number here, I think the Rams took 6 players to the active roster that were interior defenders last year. So this is what it looks like right now. The conductor, Kobe Turner, all right, we're all good with that. 3rd round pick. Braden Fisk, we're all good with that. 2nd round pick. Poona Ford, undrafted free agent who's worked his way into a career. That's a nice 3 right there. And then you've got Tyler Davis, who showed up a little bit last year, DeJuan Johnson, and then you got Corey Durden, and then you got the Euro import, David Olajiga, And then, of course, Laurel Murchison back in the fold. So you could slide Laurel in there just ahead of DeJuan Johnson into the 4th spot. And then you got DeJuan Johnson in the 5th spot. And do I still want the Rams to draft somebody? Yeah, absolutely. Now, if a Mason Graham dropped to 26, if was it Kenneth Grant? Is that the other guy from Michigan? If he dropped to 26, it's like, yeah, let's think about that. But other players that are on the draft board that are there, Darius Alexander, I've seen him mentioned to the Rams, Toledo. This board here, the Kentucky guy, Deion Walker, even in Steve Ramirez's mock draft that he showed me today, he has the Rams taking Deion Walker at about 101. Zeke Biggers, is it Central Florida, Zeke? I'm losing count there. Walter Nolan, Joshua Farmer's another guy. Yeah, I could see the Rams. Again, there's no dire needs here, but it's like, hey, let's fill out this roster. Let's bring some of these guys in. So I can see the Rams making that kind of a draft pick. If I know where Bird said playmaker, and I agree with him, but if a Mason Graham was there, it's like, man, I'm pulling the trigger on that. Cornerback room. And this is why I'm calling for an all-points bulletin on Ahkello Witherspoon. Kobe Durant, all right, cool, we're good. Darius Williams, Emmanuel Forbes, who I've lobbied for on this board. Darian Kendrick, who's coming back. Josh Wallace, undrafted free agent who made the team coming out of camp. Charles Woods, who made the team coming out of camp, got released, got put on the practice squad. And then, of course, the perennial Sean Jolly, Cam Lampkin out of Washington State, and then a veteran A.J. Green, not the receiver from Cincy, and then Ahkello Witherspoon, right? If you add Ahkello Witherspoon to this group of Kobe Durant, Darius Williams, Emmanuel Ford, and maybe Darian Kendrick, it's a competent group. It's a competent group. Is it great? No, it's not great. It's not Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes, okay? It's not even Rod Perry and Pat Thomas. It's not Charlie Stukes and, well, maybe it is Charlie Stukes and Eddie McMillan. But you need Ahkello Witherspoon back, right? Free agents that are still out there, Rasul Douglas and Asante Samuel Jr. Those are two guys that are still out there. And you know what? At this point, Rasul Douglas and Asante Samuel, they're a lot like the guys we have in the room already. And so I'm wondering, could the Rams be thinking that Rasul Douglas might be a little bit more than Ahkello Witherspoon? Could Asante Samuel be a little bit more? Because when you sign them, you might get a full season out of them. And I've said it, and I hope you guys understand what I'm saying, is that Ahkello Witherspoon's not a full season guy. He's not 18 weeks, 17 games. In the draft, the Texas guy, Jahade Barron, I've seen him a lot. I've seen him all over the yard, but I've seen him mentioned to the Rams. But then you get to that second tier cornerbacks that you can draft on the second day. Trey Amos, Maxwell Hairston, Kentucky, Darian Porter, I think it's Vautech, and then Dorian, or maybe Dorian Strong's Vautech, Darian Porter's Iowa State, and then Azare Thomas, the corner from Florida State. And these guys, none of those guys, after Barron, none of these guys would be first-round picks, but they could be, with a trade back, mid-second round picks, third-round picks. So I could see the Rams definitely drafting a corner as well. And then at linebacker, Omar Spates, Elias Neal, Tony Fields. That's all that's there right now. So could the Rams – and then we got C.J. Mosley, right? People are talking about him. I definitely think that's a possibility. And then in the draft, players, linebackers that would be there for the Rams. We know Jack Sawyer wouldn't be there. Jalen Walker's not going to be there. But the kid from UCLA, Carson Schweisinger, Jack Kaiser, Notre Dame, Danny Stutzman, Oklahoma. I think the Rams have interviewed him. Teddy Buchanan, who's, I think, Manny Correa's pushed at us from Cal. These are guys the Rams could draft. And could the Rams draft a linebacker in the top 100? Yeah, I think they could. I think they could at this point because, again, they're drafting for best player available, not because they have to particularly fill a spot. At safety, you got Cam Curl, Quentin Lake, Cam Kitchens, Jalen McCullough, and then the perennial Tanner Engel. And so right there in that mix, you know, if JJ wants to come back for a rock, bring JJ back. He's practically a coach on the field, character guy. Bring him back for a cup of coffee. Let him kind of settle that room down if there's any questions asked, and then he can spot and play. And, you know, he had a pick early last season before he got hurt. And his veteran play can really help out. You know, you think about something like a veteran like JJ would talk to Cam Kitchens. Remember when Kitchens picked off the pass late in the game against the Cardinals, and it was against the Cardinals, and instead of knocking it down, so the Rams were able to run out the clock. I think it was against the Cardinals. He intercepted it, and then the Rams had to give the ball back again. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was. JJ could speak to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams draft a safety. Again, they always draft safeties. And then edge, Jared Verse, Byron Young. Boom. And this was my conversation with Ram Bros. You need somebody to fill the void that was Michael Hoyt. Brandon Jackson, Nick Hampton, 2 fifth-round picks over the last 2 years, and Keir Thomas is still hanging out. I think you're going to need something more. And I think time's running out on Nick Hampton. I think he needs to make an impact this summer. And if not, he can get cut. Brandon Jackson, I think they might have a little more grace with. And then Keir Thomas, it's day to day. So free agents that are out there, the former Giant, Azeez Alajari, Zadarius Smith, veteran, and of course the veteran Von Miller. If you can get one of like Smith or Miller to come in, play a certain few amount of snaps here, you might get some dividends from them. But does that mean, could the Rams draft another edge player, and could they draft him high? Yeah, they could, because Byron Young's going into his 3rd year. And I'm pro Byron Young, but he really needs to stand out this year. I don't believe the rankings on PFF are at Byron Young, but he does have trouble holding the edge, right? He does get caught out of place sometimes. He does sometimes not wrap up, right? They got better as the season went on, but he needs to take the next step, right? And it goes back to the Packer game. He had a shot to put on Jordan Love, and remember, he hit him with the shoulder. Now, that was the one that Love threw for a pick 6 to Jalen McCullough, so we got away with it. But there are those aspects of Byron Young's game that need to elevate. I'd love to see the Rams be in a dilemma of having to keep Byron Young because he's so good. But, and he's better than Ogbo. He's better than Samson Ebukam, better than Justin Hollins. So I want to keep Byron Young, but he has to get a little bit better. Otherwise, I don't know if he's going to get that second contract. With that said, that means the Rams could be in the market high, first 100 for an edge player. And kicker, Josh Carty, Ethan Evans, Alex Ward. Nah, they'll bring in a camp leg and stuff, but I don't think they're going to be doing anything beyond that. All right, let's see here. Questions rolled in. Let's see here. Manny Correa came in. Jihad Campbell or Nick Amenawari at 26. Man, 26, man. That's just high for a safety. I know he'll do other things, Manny. Let's see. Tim Burns. Are you reading the guys off? Why do we sound like we lack depth? Lots of no names in there. Well, I don't think so. You tell me where you think there are no names, and I'll tell you where I feel comfortable. And I'll tell you where I love our safety room. I like our cornerback room. I'd like it better with Akello. It's a little thin there at linebacker because you're really, again, they're all UDFAs. So, everything else I like there, Mr. Burns. You tell me what's up with you. Let's see. So Manny, Tim, everyone's having a conversation on my board. Great. Hey, if you guys are going to have a conversation on my board, do me a favor. Go to Amazon and buy my books. All right. You're on my time right now, guys. There you go. Manny Vasquez. Porter would be a good pickup in the draft. Yeah, I've seen his name a lot. And Dorian Strong. And the Rams did interview Zy Alexander. Jeffrey Bassa, Oregon, off-ball linebacker. Teddy Buchanan. There we go. Manny's feeding me the names. Joe DeSanker, Virginia. Okay. Manny Vasquez. Now that they've taken care of the offense for the most part, do you think the Rams should draft heavy on the defense to complete that unit that's close to being very good? I think the Rams are a competent linebacker to complement Omar Spates, a competent linebacker. I'm not talking Ray Lewis, a competent linebacker to go with Omar Spates and a really good corner away to completing this defense. So, where you get that in the draft and what they want to do there, I'm not sure, but I think that's how close they are. I think the defense is set. They're all, I'm looking at these guys. Is there a veteran we're going to have to pay next year? No. Is there some veterans we're going to have to pay in 2 years? Yeah, Kobe Turner and Byron Young. So that's how young this team is. I think we're going to be into the Actually, the one name that is going to come up is Quentin Lake. And I don't want to, that would scare me if they drafted Emanouari from South Carolina, because I don't want them to let Quentin Lake walk. And Quentin Lake, this is his last year. And that's going to be a little bit scary. Do the Rams actually break their standard of not re-signing safeties? And I don't look at Quentin Lake as any other safety. I look at him as he's so versatile, right? He can do all sorts of things on that back porch and stuff. So he's one to keep an eye on. So they don't have to pay a lot of these defenders right now. I think offense, you got to think about, excuse me, on offense, you got to think about a right tackle. You got to think about depth behind Kevin Dotson. You got to think about, and hopefully Bo Limmer works out, and then you got to think about that. As weird as it is, the wide receiver room, because of age, susceptibility to injury, and contracts. You got to think about that going forward. So again, across the board, the Rams can draft the best player, right? Who's the best football player we can take right now, and we don't have to really draft specifically for that need. And I've shared it. 2 names, a little less high on the first one. The second one I'm really got hopes for is at running back. I wouldn't count out Cody Schrader. I would not count him out. 49ers put him in the street. They were deep in the running back room before all the injuries came in. They didn't want to put Cody Schrader in the street. Rams signed Cody Schrader, and they would not run him through waivers or anything to put him on the practice squad, and they kept him there. They didn't dress him until week 18. And next thing you know, he's playing in the playoffs. And I think they like him. I think there's something he offers, something that the Rams like. And then the other name that I've pumped since January with you guys is Emmanuel Forbes. If they can rehabilitate a first-round talent like Emmanuel Forbes. Remember, the Rams are the ones that turned Darius Williams from an undrafted free agent let go by Baltimore into a very high-quality corner in the NFL. Think what they could do with a talented Emmanuel Forbes, who probably had his confidence shattered in Washington. And if they rebound him, the Rams have a top-notch corner there. Those are a couple things to keep an eye on, and how the Rams draft might mean what they feel about someone like an Emmanuel Forbes. So there we go. Manny Correa throwing names at me again. Let's see here. Tyler Batty, BYU. Ahmed Hassan, Ohio State. Tim Burns, Joe T. Are you putting me, Steeler fan Rob, Manny Negretti, Willie, and Steve in one of your novels? You can even put in Brian Smith. Can I do that, guys? Can I do that? I did put in one blogger on Twitter because he helped me with my I was having refrigerator issues about 5-6 years ago. And I put on Twitter, does anyone know anything about fridge? And this guy who is in the San Gabriel Valley who used to work with fridges, he was retired. He gave me some clues. And I said, man, dude, I don't know how to thank you. And he says, no worries. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll put you in my next novel. And he's in my Temple City Company of the Ages novel. And as just a guy on a board. And so that was really cool. He liked it. I did it for him. And then he got arrested for murder. I haven't heard from him since. And he was arrested for murder. So he was a good dude to me. But yeah, that's the truth. If you guys want that, I'll take you guys. And no, I'm not going to ask Brian Smith for his mom. You be nice to Brian Smith. Let's see. Manny Correa. Philly and Raven are on him. Tyler Batty, is that what you're talking about there? Steve Ramirez, isn't this our time? Man, we're going comedy. There we go. Mr. Hand, isn't this our time? And what's wrong with a little fiesta? A little grub? I should get some pizza. Should I eat a pizza in front of you guys? Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Manny Career, Kaiser White is still available. Bingo. I'd be good with Kaiser White. I really would. Tim Burns, you rule, Joe T. I'm so glad I found this place. Well, I'm glad you did too. Make sure you share it with all your friends. Manny Correa, Nick Emanouari played all secondary spots. I know. He's pretty talented. It's just 26, man. It's just 26. And you know what? We draft him at 26. He hits a home run. I'm going to always be a Nick Emanouari fan, right? And I'll say that I was sitting to get him from the beginning. There we go. Manny Vasquez, another big DT, a linebacker, and a corner would complete this defense. I agree. I want a big old fat dude. I want a big old fat dude to play the defensive line, a competent linebacker, and a corner. There you go. Tim Burns, what? Are you talking about my friend that was arrested for murder? Tim Burns, that is a crazier story than the nobody who peed on your shoe. Willie Burns, is Drake Stoops still with the LA Rams? Yes, he's on the practice squad. And if you remember, Willie, he had a really good preseason and stuff. And so Tim Burns, we need to draft offense this year. I fully agree. Let's keep on rolling here a little bit. Yeah, let's do this.
It was a stone group, my man.
All right. I'm sorry. I feel bad I even shared that story. I didn't share any names, did I? No, I didn't share any names. Rams free agents that are still out there. Akila Witherspoon, John Johnson III, Joe Noteboom, Troy Reeder. They're still out there. And as I said, Tyler Johnson signed with the Jets. All right, March 17th, 1985, Gary Green, Rams cornerback, the one they traded a first-round pick for, played for the Rams in 84, and he played for the Rams in 85, and then he had the neck injury. He was arrested on this day in 1985 for indecency with a 15-year-old girl. But he was back on the field, and he played that season for the Rams. 1997, the Rams released the Methuselah of punters, Sean Lendetta. It's a bummer. Lendetta hung out with the Rams for a long time, but it was Mike Horan that ended up becoming the punter in the Super Bowl year. Let's see here. On this day in 2020, Rams declined Nicole Roby-Coleman's contract option. I think there should be a statue of Nicole Roby-Coleman put up somewhere. I think his name should be everywhere. I think there should be a Nicole Roby-Coleman mug because he did something in New Orleans that no one thought was possible. He actually got a call that didn't go for the home team there because, I'm a very anti-New Orleans guy. I'm very pro Nicole Roby-Coleman. There you go. That guy should be on scholarship forever for that playoff game. On 2021, Rams trade Michael Brockers to Detroit, 7th-round pick, 235 overall. Team declines Johnny Munt's qualifying offer. Munt was in Minnesota the last few years. I think he's just gone to Jacksonville. Born on this day in 1912 was Joe Stidehar. Anybody out there know who Joe Stidehar was? Joe Stidehar is a Hall of Fame left tackle that played 9 years with the Bears, had his career interrupted because of World War II. Also, I read that he was the first drafted player to actually make the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Stidehar, most don't know this, I bet you Steve Ramirez does. Stidehar became the Rams head coach in 1950, and he lost in the finals to the Cleveland Browns, 30-28. The Browns were kind of like the Rams Yankees in those days. 1951, Rams beat the Browns. Joe Stidehar as the head coach, Van Brocklin, 73-yard touchdown pass to Tom Fears. You can look that one up on YouTube. And Rams are world champions in 1951. Second time in 7 seasons, Rams are world champions. First game of the 1952 season, the Rams are in Cleveland and they get blown out 37-7, which is a scary score to me in Rams history as a kid. But they lose to Cleveland the first game of the 52 season. He gets into a huge dispute with one of his assistant coaches, Hamp Poole, and it works out to where Dan Reeves, the Rams head owner in those days, basically Joe Stidehar agreed to a buyout. He left the Rams. One game after winning the world championship, and Hamp Poole led the Rams to the finals, but didn't lead them to a world championship. So pretty interesting stuff there. Joe Stidehar passed away in 1977 at the age of 65. Hall of Famer, head coach for the Rams, kind of lost to history a little bit here. Also, let's look at March 18th, one name to mention. And March 18th, since we're not on the air, Drew Hill died March 18th, 2011 at the age of 54. He had a pair of massive strokes and it took him out, unfortunately. Young man. He was 12th overall, 12th round, 338th overall in 1979 out of Georgia Tech. And he was one of 3 players named Hill the Rams took in the 79 draft. Kent Hill, who had a really good career as a guard, Eddie Hill, who was a bust, and then Drew Hill. And Drew Hill and Kent Hill, not related, both went to Georgia Tech and ended up playing together in Houston. In 6 seasons with the Rams, Hill played only 5 because he missed the 83 season with an injury. He only caught 60 passes for 10 touchdowns. He was traded to the Oilers for a pair of conditional picks that didn't amount to anything in July of 85. But then he spent the next 7 seasons with the Oilers in their run and shoot offense with Warren Moon. He caught 487 passes for 47 touchdowns, finished his career, went to some Pro Bowls, finished his career with 634 catches and 81 TDs. And I'll tell you what that's kind of interesting is because 10 years before, when Charlie Taylor broke the receiving record of Don Maynard in I think it was in 75, Charlie Taylor caught 633 passes. That was the mark. He broke 633. That was the mark of all-time leading receiver in the NFL. And Drew Hill, who nobody remembers, in his career caught 634 passes, scored 81 touchdowns. Not bad for a 12th round pick. I didn't think much of Drew Hill when the Rams had him, but man, I was wondering, man, why can't the Rams have that what the Oilers are doing, right? Drove me crazy. So, man, we went well past an hour today, guys. I'll take a look at some of these questions before we bug out. Let's see. Manny Vasquez, I think I saw something that the Rams have $256 million in cap space in 2027, so they're going to start handing out big contracts next year and hopefully perpetuate the window, right? And we talked about it at the end of 2023 after that loss in Detroit, which if the Rams had a kicker, they'd have won that game. If they'd had a kicker and another edge player to play alongside Byron Young in 2023, that outcome would have been different. If you remember in the playoffs how bad the 49ers were playing, they got a scare not only from the Lions in the NFC Championship game, but they also got a scare from the Packers in their divisional round. Rams, with a veteran coach like McVay and a veteran quarterback like Stafford, they'd have beaten the 49ers. Rams literally could have gone to the Super Bowl that year. That's how close it was. And I remember us coming back on the air saying that the window is open now for the Rams to go to the Super Bowl, 24 through 26. That's the window. And and if they've got money that, we know some of these guys aren't going to be around for a while, that they can extend that window. And this is the draft to really extend that window in one sense, because if you can draft some depth, if you can draft best players, then you do have that replacement for Havenstein. You do have that replacement maybe for Kevin Dotson. You do have that replacement or the money or the situation lined up to where if you can't draft a great quarterback, you can trade for one. And so hopefully this sets up for something beyond just 2025 and 2026. That's a good call there, Manny. Let's see. Manuel Correa, we probably trade back with Jacksonville. I'm good for any kind of trade back that picks up another pick in the top 100. Manuel Vasquez, Saint fans still cry about that today, but won't admit the face mask on Goff, right? That could have gave us more points, or that they had the ball with a chance to win and choked. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, I don't know what else to say to that. They got the ball. Where was that? They got the ball in overtime, right? And aren't you supposed to win? Aren't you supposed to win in overtime when you get the ball first? And they didn't. Dante Fowler got to him, got to Drew Brees, and what's his name got picked. Drew Brees got picked, and JJ took the ball. Tim Burns, you hear me? For some reason, my volume lowered, but thank you for letting me know, Willie. I appreciate that. All right. I think we got it all in. Yeah. I'm pro Nickel Roby Coleman. I'm going to buy a Nickel Roby Coleman jersey or have one made just for the bitter, because I'm very anti-Saint, All that talk about, 15 years after Katrina, how everyone had to help New Orleans, right? All right, cool. I think we're good, guys. Guys, I can't thank you enough for your support. Thank you for being with us. Hey, if you can do me a favor, if you can hit like, share, subscribe, help us build up our numbers. I do appreciate it. And I went long. I don't know if that upsets you, if you guys like that or not. I try to keep it at 50 minutes. There's just so much to talk about. Check us out at From the RamCave, Mid Valley Sports. God bless.